Ladies and gentlemen, now that we took some time to understand both keyframes and how text works in Premiere Pro, we're starting to grasp the fundamentals bit by bit. And if you find any of this stuff complicated, you are not at fault. It is genuinely not your fault. This stuff, for someone who's completely brand new, can be something that's like so new to them, they've never thought of it. So if you're someone who's completely new to editing and you're finding this stuff complicated, it's totally okay. But if you're finding it pretty easy, that's also good news. Both of these things are completely natural. Some people are naturally going to find them easier, others are going to find them a bit more complex. But with this being said, the things we're going to be covering in this course today are very, very easy and very simple. And you can look forward to our actionable step right after this course, in which we're going to be practicing all the things which we learned in the previous courses. So what are we going to be covering today? Today, we're going to be talking about audio, music, and how we can use music inside of Premiere Pro and how we can import music. So let's go ahead and dive right into it. The first thing I want to explain for you guys is the audio meter. The first thing you need to understand about audio is audio works in decibels. So the louder an audio is, the louder it's going to be on our audio meter. The lower the audio is, the lower it's going to be on the audio meter. Now, a lot of people, the biggest mistake they do when they first import audio into Premiere Pro is they play around with the volume too much, and it's either too loud or too low, and they mess around with that. So I'm going to give you guys a good guideline today on understanding how audio works. But audio inside of Premiere Pro is pretty simple. When you play it, you can hear it and you can see how loud it is. Now, how do I change the volume of the audio? Well, all you have to do is select it and right click, and you're going to get a bunch of these very, very big, huge menus. And you're just going to go over to audio gain over here, and you can click on it and you can adjust a few things. So you can either set the gain to a certain amount. So this sets the audio level to a certain amount. So you could set this, like add 10 decibels of volume to it. And when I click OK, it's going to be louder. Is where I speak and there we go. I'm gonna click Control Z so I can undo it. And you guys can also notice, I don't know if you guys noticed, but your waves also do get bigger when you increase that. So if I go back to 10, there we go, it's bigger. And if I go back, it's the same. Or I can right click and go over to my audio gain, and I can adjust the gain by a certain amount, like 10. So what's the difference, right? We just did the same thing. So what's the difference between these two? The first thing you need to understand is that when I set the gain to something, I am setting the volume of this to a certain amount. So if I want to set it to 15, I've set it to 15, okay? Now, if I wanted to add another 5 to this, I have to write out 20, right? Because 5 plus 15 is 20. And now it has to be at 20. But if I wanted to, let's say, if I wanted to do this another way and the gain was at 15 already, I can right click and I can go to audio gain and I can adjust the gain by 5, which means it's going to add 5 to it. Or I can right click and I can adjust the gain by -5, which means it's going to subtract 5 to it. So what setting the gain to means is it allows you to set the audio volume to a certain amount that you type in. What adjusting the gain means is it affects the volume of the audio by the value that you type in. So it either adds 5 or subtracts 5 and so on. You could just think of these as simple as one of them sets the volume and the other one adds or subtracts however much you want. And both of them are useful in different instances. The other two we're not going to cover and we're not really going to worry about, but I'm going to set the gain to 10 for now, and we're just going to play through it. Now, here's a few things you have to understand about audio. Audio inside of Premiere Pro is very tricky. Sometimes you might listen to this video is where you might be like, oh, well, that's low volume or that's very loud volume. And then you render it and see the exact opposite. The reason is because the way you set the volume of your headphones on your PC can completely change what audio is. Because, for example, my earphones are not set to the same volume that your headphones are. Your headphones might be at a lower volume, but I might be hearing this very, very loudly. And so for that reason, we rely on one thing which does not change in between devices, which is your audio levels. And this is how many decibels your audio is. So for something like a voiceover like this, where I'm speaking to the mic, I should always, whenever I want to hear a character speaking on camera, they should always be between -6 and -12 decibels. That's usually the place that we want them to be. So when I click play, I'm on -12. So I can actually use a bit more. So I'm going to right click and go to my audio gain, which by the way, the best shortcut for this is you can click on this and click G and you're going to get audio gain. It's quite simple. Audio gain. The word gain starts with G. So you just click on G. So once again, select your footage and click on G and you can adjust it by adding, if it was at -12, I want to bring it up to 6. We're going to add somewhere like 5. Okay, so let's go ahead and play through this. Is where I speak and I take a few. You see, it's now at -6 instead of -12. Now this is a bit too loud because it's starting to touch. Sample video is orange. Okay, now here's the thing. I'm gonna bring this really loud, so just brace for impact. It's about to be very loud. Where I speak and. So as you guys can notice, when the audio is loud, it goes red in the top over here. You guys can see, right? There we go. So it becomes red. Ideally, where we want our audio to be is we want it to be in the yellow or orange section. We don't want it to touch the red, but we want it to be just under it so it's loud enough for people to hear and not too low volume for people to have to raise the volume to hear it, okay? So for that reason, I'm gonna go ahead and set the gain back to 0. Okay, and now I'm going to select it, and as you guys can see when I play through it, sample video is it's at minus 18, which is very low. If I want to bring it up to something like minus 10 decibels, I obviously need to add 8 decibels to it, so I'm going to adjust the gain by 8 or 9. It's going to go for 9. Let's go ahead and play through it, and it's now between minus 12 and 6, which is very, very good volume. So with that being said, that is how you manipulate audio inside of Premiere Pro. Now, let's say you wanted to add some music to this. I'm going to just select whichever music track I have got available over here. Let's go for, let's just go for this one, whichever one. And I'm going to drag it into my project files. And now if I bring my music into my timeline, obviously I can add it into my video. I add it to my audio. You guys can see the waves over here. I'm zooming out by holding down Alt and scrolling. And you guys can see this big wave track. Now, if I wanted to, let's just shorten this down because we can't really see what's happening. If I wanted to put my music under my audio here, all I have to do is just drag it down and under. I don't want to place it on the same, in the same spot because now it takes over my audio. So I want to place it under. And right now, I'm just going to cut to a random section in the middle of it, like this. And if I play through it, you're going to notice something very special. So check this out. Sample video is where I speak and I take a few pauses. The music is way too loud and I can't hear the person speaking at all. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to play around with the music volume until we can hear the person speaking. So since my speaker is at minus 12, usually I'm going to want my music to be anywhere between minus 20 to minus 24. So my music naturally, without anyone speaking, is at minus 6. Which means I have to bring it down by around minus 20. So I'm going to click on G, and I'm going to click to adjust gain, and I'm going to click on minus 20. And when I add this in, it's now going to be at minus 27. And now if I listen to this, sample video is where I speak and I take a few pauses. That is very, very good volume. And as you guys can see, for example, in this case, you can hear the speaker clearly and you can hear the music very clearly. Please make sure not to make your music too loud. It's a trick I've fallen into a lot of times. And please make sure to keep your person or your main character's volume very, very loud and audible. Sample video is where I speak and I take a few pauses. And we can just make a cut right here using our razor tool and delete the rest so we can have a cleaner cut. And that is how you manipulate audio inside of Premiere Pro. So one more time, let's quickly revise everything that we went over. We're going to undo it all until we go back to our original clip. So let's just make sure that we change the audio gain back to 0. If I've got my audio inside of Premiere Pro, the first way I can track my audio is using my audio meter down here. Sample video. And the two things you need to keep in mind is for your music, you want to keep your music at minus 24 and you want to keep your speaker's volume, your main speaker, at somewhere around minus 6 or minus 12. Okay, ideally at minus 9 would be pretty solid. How do you change this? Well, you listen to your speaker, you see where they are on your audio meter. Sample video is where I speak. Mine is at minus 21, which means I'm going to add around 10 to 11 kind of decibels to it. So I just click on my clip, I click on G to open up my audio gain meter, and I click on adjust gain by, and I just set this to something like 11. And now, I take a few pauses. I can hear my speaker. Sample video is where I speak. The second part is if I want to add in any music and I drag it into my project files and drag it into my under my audio, and I can now see it. So let me just quickly cut to the center of the song, right? If my music is too loud, I first need to listen to the music without a speaker to assess how loud the music is. And the music is around minus 3 or minus 6 loud, or minus 6 decibels loud. So I can just click on G and I can adjust the gain by minus 20 to get that minus 23 or minus 26. Sample video is where I speak and that sounds a lot better. It's very important that we don't rely on the ear and rely just on what we're hearing. Instead, we must always rely on the audio meter because this does not vary between devices, okay? And so with that being said, that is the fundamentals of audio. You can also get access to or see audio information by clicking on your clip and going into your effect controls down over to your volume, and you can see the level or the decibels, and you can adjust that here if you prefer. And then you can also keyframe it, and just as we mentioned the last time, you can add some pretty cool effects with your audio, which we will be looking into in the future of this masterclass. So with that being said, that is pretty much everything in this course. You learn how to track your audio, and you learn how to use music and how to alternate and manipulate your audio inside of Premiere Pro. Okay, so over the last 3 courses, we learned our text inside of Premiere Pro, we've learned the keyframes, and we've learned the audio. Now what I'm going to be doing in the next courses, I'm going to be combining all the information we have learned in these last courses and all the fundamentals of editing, and I'm going to be merging them into one actionable step for you guys to follow so that you guys can learn these basics and fundamentals of Premiere Pro so that we can all pick up these basic tools inside of Premiere Pro and become good, solid base editors, and we can start building our skills up after that. So with this being said, I'll see you guys in the next actionable step, which is where we're going to be turning our boring edit into something really solid. See you guys there.